Picard Week, me and VTC. Today on episode 295, you know what that means, of Trekland Tuesdays live with me, Dr. Trekland Nemecek, coming right at you from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 and all things Trekish here for some clarity, some sanity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. It's another Tuesday. It's a happy Valentine's Day. I don't like to time these, but since we're all here because we love Star Trek, why not? And what a week to love. So much Star Trek happening. It's in the title this week. Those 7 weeks of hiatus seem so far behind. It's kind of amazing what's been happening. And as much as it can be done, I think it's a global feeling. We've got everybody on board, no matter what. Everybody's hanging in for the same show on the same couple of channels, and then Canada with your weird too. We're not weirding out about where it can be seen, all that. We've got Paramount Plus, we've got Prime around the world. We've got everybody on board. We've got most of the world looking forward to it. I'll have more on that in a minute. And then we've got even more than the simple debut of the latest Star Trek series going on. And hey, if you are watching us later, try to catch us live if you can. I know it's hard. It's midday for the Americans. Jump in when you can, okay? And feel free to leave a comment at any time. But right, it's hard to have walked planet Earth in the last week. I've seen Picard trending on Twitter at times. 2 great events, especially last Thursday here in LA. We had a good old-fashioned Hollywood premiere at the Grauman's Chinese, no less. A lot of you, no matter where you were in the world, got to see. They didn't live stream it, the arrivals even, but there are tons of pictures. The studio has, fans did. It was a little dicey because at first they oversold the theater. I know. Well, they didn't oversell. They overstuffed the theater. But then they opened up a side room which had everything except the microscopic Terry Metalis and Alex Kurtzman, and the not quite so microscopic Patrick Stewart, Sir Patrick, talking at the beginning. Otherwise, it was all the same. So everybody got in. I did a second opinion this last week, my little video short series on the premiere especially. So I'm going to save most of that for that experience. But what's reflecting around the globe, including last night's New York event, which was actually a charity for the 92nd Street Y in conjunction with them. Somewhat smaller, but still you had Sir Patrick and Gates and Jonathan and Michael Dorn and a moderator having fun before the screening, after the screening. So everybody's gotten into the mood as much as can be done around the world, that's short of a movie budget. People online are screaming. And you know what? Here's the thing. And here's the data part of today's show, as much as we can call it data. The build for the promotion for this series has gone through the roof. Now, that's the job of promoters, right? To do that. I'm curious to know what you all think, and we can talk about this in the chat when we get back around to it. But I didn't have time to do this in an email, so I didn't hit my email list, but I hit my social channels. And I didn't get Facebook because you can't do more than a couple options in Facebook. It pisses me off. So if you were on my Twitter or you were on my Instagram and either stories or reels, I ask everybody their opinion about Picard based on the promotion. You can say hype if you want to. Because what's funny is I've been seeing, and it's a natural human reaction. And it's a natural human reaction, especially by people that feel they've been burned. Because, as I said in my second opinion, we are not a Stepford fandom. As long as we're not actual bought-off bots and trolls, people do have a range of opinions. Now, it feels like maybe it's as unified for Picard as anything has ever been out of the gate. There was a lot of expectancy around Strange New Worlds. Can you please be the return to our savior of the standalone episode? And that pretty much has been fulfilled, although once the glow of the season was ended, a few longtime Canonistas were kind of like, eh. And I'm not talking about the controversy around the finale episode. I'm talking about the whole thing. There's a lot of needle threading going on with Strange New Worlds, and not to knock its shine at all. But there was that. I think even the Strange New love has been surpassed. There was a lot of love for Lower Decks, once people got on board, a lot of love by a lot of surprised fans once Prodigy wound up its second 10 of the first season. Oh my God, I didn't realize I would like it this much. I didn't realize they were going to deep dive so much. I thought it was just a cartoon about the kids. And it is, but more. But out of the gate, and we're going to talk about this too in a little bit, it's even reflected in the parrot analytics ratings, which we'll take after the break. But right now, in your bones, in your gut, as you watch, well, sure, Terry Metalis, who to most of you is just a face that's popped up, and maybe you watched his show 12 Monkeys, the series adapted from the movie. Maybe you were swayed by Gates McFadden saying, oh my God, if they'd only written Dr. Crusher like this during the series, I would have been so much happier. This is the best Gates material ever. Maybe if you've read every actor in the main cast talking about how enthused they were for this shoot, maybe that got you peaked. Maybe that set you off. Or maybe it's just this kind of tidal wave that seems to be flowing. And maybe if you're a skeptic, maybe if you fry a whole bread in your kitchen and don't know, they think your wife and kid have gone crazy, Google it. It's an old commercial. Maybe you're a skeptic and you think, oh, come on. They always hype the shows this much. They always promote them this much. I'm just going to tell you, there are a couple of times in Star Trek history that this moment reminds me of. One of them was more behind the scenes. Out front, there was a lot of controversy. But behind the scenes, The Wrath of Khan started off as a budget-saving follow-up to the motion picture that was filmed by the TV movie division of Paramount. But what they saw on film was exceeding expectations. And even with the debate and the controversy about Spock being killed off and the leak and the poll about people were going to boycott the box office and the licensed merch and all of that, backstage, people were really, really excited. And the most hardcore case of all, Leonard Nimoy, decided not to leave the franchise after all, based on what he saw in the dailies and knew was coming down the road. He saw it happen and saw Spock could be a viable character that wouldn't taint his career. It wouldn't be stereotypical. But didn't hurt that he turned that also into a directing gig, used his clout and leverage to get that directing gig. There's that. There's also the case of Star Trek 4, which once it rolled together was causing such a bubble backstage with the excitement about the performances, the excitement about the tie-in with the Save the Whales message, good old Star Trek message show, that they boosted the budget for worldwide promotion, showed it in Moscow in the Soviet Union as detente was starting to take hold, and bumped up a week early for the debut. But there was that kind of behind-the-scenes excitement. I'm rapidly trying to run through everything in my memory of when backstage excitement for a product equaled out front excitement. And sometimes it's been misguided and misplaced. I think since then, people have been, because even TNG started off with a year or two of growing pains and chaos on the bridge, right? Everything else, through whatever the medium, whatever the audience, the mechanism, delivery system was, TV, movies, streaming, new startup network, everything got in the way a little bit of that. I almost feel like this is the first time since Star Trek 4 that there's been this alignment ahead of time, and everybody backstage just can't help themselves. Yeah, the promoters are paid to promote, but it's a lot easier when their work is done for them. And that said, as I said in the second opinion this week, you don't ever want to wall off you can't ever speak for everybody. So I was curious to know how people were as much reacting to the promotional hype as they were reacting to what they'd seen in the promos, in the trailers. And the trailers look awesomely good. I said in the second opinion, everybody from the shippers to the ship pornistas, from the commentary folks to the canonistas. I think everyone's going to have something to love in this hour. Now, I got through 4 episodes of my 6 on the screener. I still haven't got over the hump to watch the last 2, but the first 4 are amazing. And 6 is 6 out of the 10. And I hate using such superlatives. Basically, this is a Trek show with older characters. And they're all doing heroic things. A skeptic might sit back and say, really? But then we watched our original series folks in Star Trek 4, 5, and 6, and even a little in Generations. doing incredible things at their age. And hey, it is the 23rd, 24th century. My quest was to find out what everybody else thought at this moment in time. So last night, if you're on my channels, here's the results I got. I posted a little 4-part, wasn't like our email surveys that go into me. It was a 4-answer sequence that I pulled on my Instagram Reels, which are the longer form, Instagram Stories, which are 30 seconds, and Twitter, which sits there. Okay. You could still even go over and vote if you want to. On Instagram Reels was the one that had the biggest pushback, I guess. So here's the thing. I had 4 answers. I'm in. I'm excited about Star Trek Picard. I'm watching, but I'm skeptical. That was number 2. Number 3, nope. Picard season 1 and 2 lost me. I'm not, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. So A, that they're not watching. And D was, I don't watch any new Trek. So it's not even on my radar. So that was an answer. I didn't, as I usually do with the email, I didn't ask about technical capacity or, financial situation, can't subscribe, or even, I know someone with screeners and I'm just going to watch those. No, so those are the 4. So of those 4 on Reels, the turnout was, and this is a good turnout, 75% said, I'm in, I'm excited. 22% said, I'm watching, but I'm skeptical. And yes, 1% said, nope, not watching. Picard, you burned me already. And 1% said, I don't watch new Trek. Now, that was on Reels. On Story, which is the 30-second bits that go away after 24 hours, it's amazing how this is echoing. That was 76% said, yes, I'm in, I'm excited. 24% said, I'm watching, but I'm skeptical. I don't blame them. And this time around, nobody answered in the negative for either negative answer. That's kind of amazing. Okay, so then on Twitter, hardcore Twitter, it's amazing how this is about the same profile. And again, this is my followers. So is it a skewed audience up and down the line? Then I think so. Here you go. I'm in, I'm excited. 74%. I'm watching, but I'm skeptical. 20%. Nope, Picard lost me after season 1 and 2. No, I've been burned. 4%. And I am not watching any new Trek. 2%. So good old hardcore skeptical Twitter, even with the mass migrations to Mastodon or Post or my fake Twitter or whatever the new app of the moment is. Even with all the defections, there's still many skeptics frying their bread practically grease-free in Wesson oil. And that's 312 votes right there. That's as much as an email on my list. So that's pretty amazing. Between 70, basically 3/4 of everybody on my different accounts, Instagram and their preference there. 3/4 of my audience, anyway, my followers are all thrilled to pieces about Picard. About a fifth to a fourth, or say, well, I'm watching, but I've been taken before. So good on you. Buyer beware, caveat emptor. And only just pieces, just minuscule bits are not watching. What does that tell us? Does that say that the promotion folks, the whole PR campaign has been amazingly successful? Well, it has, but it's easy to sell something when you got a good product. And as I said many times this past week, I don't want to overhype, overgush. I don't want to overpromise, raise the bar too high. We all know that game. That's dangerous territory. But it's getting harder and harder not to. I mean, the truth will be out. This is all becoming a moot point very quickly. And we're not even talking about what the residual effect will this be. Will there indeed be a spinoff of some kind? There will not be a 4th season Picard as we know it. Although that begs the question, what exactly is or define Star Trek Picard as we know it? Because if the first 2 didn't differentiate in tone and direction, this 3rd one certainly doesn't. And I know a lot of fandom will say amen. But what would a 4th season Picard even be, given that you had all the toys to play with? Well, will there be a spin-off of characters? Maybe. Who knows? I thought I hear things about the next show up in the pipeline, but there are things to happen, things to go. Discovery's got 5 years in. How many more seasons will Discovery run? If this five series a year holds, even if 2 of them remain animated for a while, that's 3 live actions. If they don't pile up more than that, and I think there's a cautious tail, even as the rest of streaming is retrenching, and you're seeing that, and is big TV over? Is big cinema TV? Is big stream retrenching? And you see that with some of the consolidation going on, cancellations of Netflix and especially, but Prime shows. It seems odd that there would be an expansion beyond the 5. I think the 5 slot is set because that works for Paramount Plus. They want a Trek all year long. And the fact that they're having other hits now is a good thing, Mary. Everything is not depending on Star Trek, which is good. Now, I don't think we're going to get to the point where Star Trek is going to be the way Enterprise became on UPN, say. Somebody's going to look at it as the expensive golden calf that it's time it was trimmed down and played the book like everyone else. From what we can tell, they're all doing exactly what they're asked to do as far as revenue and numbers go. Everybody's holding up their end of the stick, as it were. And right now, this series is certainly doing that, but it's going away in this form and maybe replaced by something, and maybe something in 4 or 5 years, 2 or 3 years, who knows? But here right now, in this moment, in this week, it's an incredible week. Whoever the marketing genius was that picked Valentine's week and, here in the US, President's Day weekend was a genius, because that's adding to some of the kerfluffle going on. What I meant by this title this week was, on top of all the excitement about Picard last week and this week, and I add to that, folks, remember, follow the socials of the creators. The actors are fine, but I'm talking about, get on Terry's Instagram and Twitter. Get on Dave Blass's Instagram. Start seeing who's liking their posts. And if it's not a fan friend that you know, it might just very well be somebody from the art staff. I said on the Second Opinion, I finally got to meet Jeff, the prop master, some of the art directors who work in arts. It was great to see so many of the golden era folk at the premiere. The double-edged sword of Picard, though, is that, yay, it was filmed in LA. A lot of folks were here normally local and got to go to the premiere, where a trip across, if the studio wasn't underwriting their airfare, if they want to muckety-muck, then they wouldn't have been able to do that. But it was good to see them here in LA. But it's over. If there is a spinoff to Picard, it might not, if it doesn't involve Sir Patrick, who is the reason why this was in LA. If it doesn't involve him, the next Picard spinoff, I say that loosely. I'm saying that not knowing there is one. But if there is one, it will likely be shot in Toronto. Part of the reason I wanted to really be able to get to this premiere is because it may be the last one, short of a Star Trek Day celebration, that we may have an organic to LA big studio event for a Star Trek. So that was part of the bittersweetness of this event as well. Hopefully the Star Trek days will be, but I know they feel like sharing time with East Coast for the big events, and New York is close to Toronto, and that's going to be Star Trek HQ, like it or not, for a while. And nothing against Toronto. You're a wonderful city. It's just God meant for Star Trek to be made in LA. That's where it hatched from. From the fertile minds of Gene Roddenberry, Bob Justman, and Dorothy Fontana, and Gene Kuhn, et cetera, Matt Jeffries. What will the future portend? What will the future portend? The future of this week portends that on the virtual side, this week of love, Valentine's Day and Star Trek premiere, just so happened because they time it to President's Day weekend on 2 fronts. The very live action Gallifrey 1 convention down at LAX Marriott, which, yes, is a Doctor Who convention, but as Sean told me years ago, Who fans have more than one love, and the biggest number 1 love after number 1 to number 2 is likely to be Star Trek. And especially these days, with so much shipworthiness in Picard going on. That's live this weekend. But on top of that, for 5 days, virtually, is, Virtual TrekCon number 4. 5 days this year. It's going to start Thursday through Monday. So by the time you see this, hopefully you're going to see this where you can still tune in. I've wound up somehow with 1 day live at Galley on Saturday and the other days doing something for Virtual TrekCon. Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, my better half Janet and the great Lolita Faggio have a panel that's just about some of the just the everyday, a day in the life of 90s Star Trek, just telling stories, talking about processes, comparing then and now. I've unearthed a lot of photography, some of the tales I've only told to the Portales, some of the things that got said for the Voyager documentary, and if I have my way about it, maybe some new bits. Just go to Virtual TrekCon 4. I'm going to have this on my site as well at LarryNemecek.com as soon as we hammer out the online details. That's still up a little up in the air, but time-wise, it'll be on somebody's YouTube channel or mine. So where you're watching right now is likely where most of these will be. And it'll be a day long. Every hour, every 90 minutes is going to shift. And there's a lot of programming going on. Just my end of things is noon on Thursday with Lolita and Janet. And then you don't want to miss this at 11:30 Friday. And yes, I know it's not our good old Saturday time when everybody was off work, no matter where you lived in the world, most folks. This has to be on a Friday, but it's close to our old time. Friday at 11:30 Pacific, 2:30 Eastern. It is, yes, finally, our first special reunion. Dr. Ali and Dr. Trek, one of us is a real doctor, a live support live special, the first one since we ended the podcast not quite a year ago. We've got a theme cooked up. It'll be based on Picard, but across all the seasons. And again, 11:30 Pacific, 2:30 Eastern, 6:30 GMT. We'll have some more specials too, but this is our first. That's for Friday. Sunday night at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. I'll be on the wrap-up panel, the reaction panel for the Lappy Awards, the Live Long and Prosper Awards. Hopefully you had a chance to vote on them last month. There are some standard awards you'd expect, some really silly ones too, and some special faces. They've cooked up another great batch of surprises, and some of the honorees are going to be on hand. That's going to be Sunday afternoon. That's kind of the highlight of as it's evolved. And again, this is Ryan Husk and everybody over at Seventh Rule, Sirach, on down the line. And I know some of them are in the chat probably right now. That's Sunday also, actually the fourth day of Virtual TrekCon 4. And then Monday even. And Monday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 Eastern, the great Terrace Cassidy and I have got a panel on bits, tips, and tricks for your own Star Trek location hunting and traveling. And we're going to share some stories from our time in the field. Terrace with Geek Nation Tours that I've led the Trek component for over the years, and also my own Trekland Treks, which I'm very excited because in a little over a week, hopefully I can rest up some. And then a week from Thursday, I've got a bunch of the cruisers going on the official cruise the day before they leave, going on a standard away days, which is 4 pre-selected dates. So they're all from all over the country, all over the world, and there's not a veteran among them, a veteran Trekster among them for Trek tours. So I'm excited to take some newbies around and show them the big and the small sites as well. And then another group after they get back. But at least I've got a couple of weeks to rest up. So no, this is going to be kind of an amazing week. This coupled with last week, it's all about Picard, but it's all beyond that even. It's beyond going. Part of this feels like last year was a beta about emerging from the from pandemic and coronavirus lockdown. One thing, the folks at Gallifrey, the live convention here in LA, we're still going to be masked. It's 25 to 3,000 folks at the hotel. They still are worried about COVID and flu season being rampaging because the flu is higher this year because everybody was so masked that there's more unmasked targets out there that's easy prey for just the regular flu virus. So they're insisting on a mask policy for the weekend. So that's another interesting thing here. So we've been lurching out gradually from COVID, but there's still some wintertime reminders of things out there. Even that can come up. Some folks welcome that. Some folks, of course, are chomping at the bit about it, but we'll see what happens. Otherwise, though, this year feels like it's shaping up to finally emerge from the shadows as much as last year was a dress rehearsal, a tech for getting out of that. And hey, I got COVID getting sloppy at Vegas last year, still in August. So mild, of course, to be sure, fully vaxxed and boosted and all of that. But which did the job. But it still shows that anyone that thinks that we had so many people defy medical common sense that it's allowed the virus to be, and maybe it will be just like the flu. But if we'd had a chance to knock out regular flu a century ago, don't you think we should have done it? I think so. I think that corner of the medical establishment would have found something else to focus on that's been working on the flu all this time. Anyway, that's what this cryptic title was all about. It's just an insane week of goodness. And then realizing that today, to talk about it, was overlapping Valentine's Day, which I know means nothing to you watching this a year from now. But right here in the moment, there is just so much Star Trek love, especially with this hype for Picard, especially the cynics and the skeptics among us, keeping a little arm's length there. As long as you go ahead and plunge in and at your safe zone, keep your safe distance, before you decide you've been overtaken. And hey, you all know me. I'm a skeptic till the end. I said over and over again on that second opinion. I don't jump in. When I take simple polls from CVS, I never give anything a 10. If I love something, it's always a 9. I never give anybody a 10. And I haven't seen all of Picard. I'm not going to give it a 10 either. I'll sit here on my 9.5 for a while. I want to see the whole season spin out. But for right now, that's where I am, gang. Where are you? Where are you? Are you falling? Do you and your friends and associates, your online community, kind of fall in with that profile? It's like a 3/4 excited, 1/4, 1/5. I'm watching, but you got to prove it to me. I'm not going to go Google yet. And then 1%, 0% ignoring. Really? Is only 2% of Trek fandom ignoring Picard? We'll see. We'll see. There's already a bit of a clue metric-wise, and I'm going to get to that as soon as we come back. But for right now, if you're leaving us, again, thanks for watching on YouTube, but try to join us live sometime, would you please? Just a quick reminder. First of all, a reminder to thank all of our Patreon folks at our TTL club. I call it Trekland Tuesdays Live Club. And that means a big thank you to Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Justin Porteous, Galinda Bruton, Chris Jiggins, Andrew Jasimski, Pranakasha Productions, and Gay Clevin Lundstrom, and our TTL Live Wires. Halbeard Gunn Johnson, Robert McLean, Alan Hohensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, and Casey Shafsky. And remember, you can join them and be a Patreon supporter of me. Very simple, for $5 or $10 a month. They do it at the end of the month. There's still more than enough time to jump in this month. Patreon.com/Trekland Live and get a shout out. And finally, at one point, finally get archive of past interviews with backstage folks. I'm saying this holding my breath, but even as I mention this, I still have everything is set up, and I still have 2 seats that people can join us on the 23rd. February 23rd, there's still 2 seats we've made, but I've got them there. If you want to jump in, you can check it out at LarryNemecek.com and click the link there. And biggest thing of all, we are finishing our 9th season of the Trek Files. Today drops our season finale, and what great timing. None other than, Star Trek Picard's Terry Matalas joins us to talk about adapting and evolving Star Trek, and we're looking at some, you guessed it, some Roots TNG documents and notes, and we talk about the then and now of the science and the art of taking good care of Star Trek, as the phrase went. You'll see what we mean when you listen. It's the Trek Files at our Facebook page. That's where the document is always. You can find the audio at any good place where podcasts are caught. And, of course, all the Roddenberry podcasts, Mission Log, and Sci-Fi 5 and Fanatics, and all of them are at podcast.roddenberry.com. That's it for this week. Hey, everybody, please, thanks for being with us. Join us if you can live next week. And until till Virtual TrekCon, I see you. Maybe I see you live at Gallifrey on Saturday, whatever it is. And if not, next Tuesday here. Trek well, everybody. Stay healthy, do all the things. Stay woke, check your sources. And then you can really trek well.